Nigerian Education Loan Fund has clarified that disbursement of education loans to Ladoke Akintola University of Technology is yet to be concluded due to pending institutional processes required to finalize payments under the education loan scheme. NELFUND says engagements are ongoing with the university's management to resolve the outstanding issues, and disbursements are only carried out after all institution-specific validation and reconciliation procedures are completed. NELFUND is appealing to the authorities of LAUTECH and other institutions to allow the verified students captured under the scheme to sit for their examinations. This development follows outcry by students of institutions alleging the denial of access to right examinations despite being verified under the NELFUND scheme. The fund reassured students and parents that it remains fully committed to settling its obligations to the institution, stressing that no beneficiary will be disadvantaged, advising all concerned to remain calm. And just how calm should they be? I'm joined by Managing Director NELFUND, Mr. Akintola. He joins us live from Abuja studio. Mr. Sawyer, when exactly do you expect these pending disbursements to LAUTECH to be resolved?
Okay, thank you very much, Mr. Ogutoye, for your question. So I can't and won't speak specifically to one institution. What I will tell you is that because of the staccato nature of applications, so people apply at different times, institutions verify at different times, institutional deadlines for examinations and access to class and starting of the academic year or new sessions or new semesters start at different times. There is a real mishmash of deadlines and obligations on various parties to do things in a timely manner in order for the process to work as it should. It is still a relatively new process, a relatively new situation, but as you can probably see, what we're starting to see in the sector is some calmness and some predictability because there are no longer strikes, there are no longer any sorts of delays that affect the students as they used to. What we now have is people delaying in applying for the loans themselves, institutions in some cases having delays in verifying the students. So it's a whole different problem. But I will say that wherever we have students who have been verified, and we're still going through the audit checks at our end before we make payment because we must carry out our own audit processes. Good. What we advise the institutions to do is to say, look, you know pretty much that these 5,000 students have been verified. So allow them to sit their exams, allow them to access classes, allow them to access seminars. We urge institutions to please take the anxiety away from these students and allow them, because NELFUND in most cases pays. It may pay a day late, a week late because of the various scenarios that I just described, but NELFUND always pays. So, you know, why deprive the students of the opportunity to sit an exam which may have a big effect on them?
Mr. Sawyer, this is close home now because LAUTECH is my alma mater. And given that verified students are reportedly being denied access to exams, I'm wondering if you're hearing directly from the school authority, are they taking your appeal to allow the students write the exams?
So, you know, we've been in this situation with LAUTECH before, and, you know, what I can tell you is that the management at the institution is extremely responsive. They have in the past, when we've appealed to them, when we've had this sort of situation, acceded to our demands or to our requests, should I say, and allowed the students to sit their exams. I can't see why that would be any different at this point, at this particular point in time. We as NELFUND are delighted that LAUTECH students are applying for this loan. We're trying to encourage more people to come onto the scheme. Therefore, we go over and beyond to ensure that we appeal to the institutions to make this a pleasant experience for the students. And that's why we will sometimes stick our necks out and say to the institution, please allow the students to sit their exams. The funds are on the way. We do that regularly, not just at LAUTECH, with all institutions. This is a scheme that the President of the Federal Republic of Nigeria, His Excellency President Bola Ahmed Tinubu GCFR, has put in place for this exact reason, to ensure that students are not disadvantaged. And disadvantage doesn't just mean dropping out of school. It means finding themselves in a situation where they're unsure or uncertain about what's going to happen next in their academic careers. This scheme at NELFUND has been put in place by the President to ensure that these anxieties go away.
I know you mentioned it earlier, but can you clarify what specific institutional validations or reconciliations are required before disbursements, and why these processes in LAUTECH are particularly taking so long?
So they're not particularly taking so long at LAUTECH, but I will answer your question around what the specific processes are, and I'll talk through it very quickly. When students apply to us, we collate the data for the students, we collate the applications, we check it, we ensure that everything that is required is there, we verify it at our end. Once we've done that, we send the data on the students, 100 students, 1,000 students, 5,000 students. We send a list to the institution to say, look, are these students really your students? Are they still in the institution? Have they left? Have they pulled out? Have they gone away? Sadly, have they died? We ask about the specific list that we send to them. Once they have a look at that list, and they also check whether the fees are correct and the courses are correct. Once they've verified that, they send the information back to us. Now, the time between them receiving the information from us, verifying and returning to us, there can be a lag. Now, once we get that information back, we cross-check it, make sure that nothing has been altered that changes our own perspective when we're initially verifying the list. Once we check that, we send it to our audit department. They check it, they make sure that everything is as it should be, there's no internal issues, there's no external issues, and then it goes to our finance department, which then pays it out. Of course, that follows an approval at management level to say that this can go. Once that approval is given and the finance department pay out to the institutions, we're good to go. Now, obviously, once the institutions receive the funds, it is imperative that we and the institutions inform the students that the funds have been sent and received by the institution. We do that by email, by SMS, and by the dashboard account that the students have with us, so that everybody knows that the funds are there. What we absolutely discourage and frown on is for the information that the funds have reached the institution to be sat on by the institution, because if that happens, what tends to happen is the students, out of their desperation, and their parents go looking for money to pay the fees, and then we're into a brand new territory called the refund territory. We don't want to get into refunds because that's a whole mess in itself, or can be. So what we urge the schools to do is to allow the students, following that process I just described, to access the education that they need so that they don't have to refund. Refunds are a whole headache for the institutions themselves, and for the massive headache for students who have to look for the money to go and pay the fees. It's an area we don't want to go into. That's why we go over and above to ensure that even if the funds haven't reached the institutions, we urge them to allow the students to access classes. And I can tell you that in the majority of cases, the institutions understand, they work with us, they've got guaranteed funds coming, so they're quite happy to accede to these demands or to these requests.
Let's wrap it with a direct message to beneficiaries who have now entered panic mode. What do you say to them?
So I say to them, reach out to us. Look, if you have entered panic mode, you're not sure what's going to happen next, reach out to us. Reach out to me directly. I receive calls from students directly asking for support. And you know, it's amazing what you discover when students call you themselves. But the answer to your question or request of me is I'm appealing to all beneficiaries. Reach out to us through your student union leaders or anyone else who can collate and gather this information if there are multiples of people involved, and we will do everything we can. The President wants this scheme to work for students. Our job is to make sure that that vision is met, both for the visioner, but more importantly, for the students, for the beneficiaries, for the youth of Nigeria. This is a critical scheme, and we won't allow it to suffer any man-made issues, you know, as we administer it.
Akintola Sawyer is Managing Director, NELFUND. Good to see you again, and thank you for bringing some clarity to these issues.